Welcome back, YouTube, to Peterson Auto. Today, putting this big old DT360 inside a frame. I'm not going to show you everything because you really would have to do this mostly with your own design. That being said, we'll get you some of the basics. I don't know if you can see it there. The cross member is in. We'll get you a better view of that later. Cross member is in, so that's going to be reinforcing the frame. We have the engine here. And first step is to get it roughly in place, measure things out, see what I need where, and then go from there. So that's what we're going to do now. We'll get you a quick video of the cross member, then we'll throw it on in. Okay, YouTube, so here you can see the cross members in. I built that up. It's mostly 1/8 inch plate, lots of triangulation, lots of gussets, 3 bolts per side. I can add more if I want to. But right now, 3 bolts per side. The tube on the bottom there, going across about where the axle is. We'll get you a shot from over here too. That tube is roughly, I think, 1/4 inch wall. Schedule 80 pipe, so whatever that comes out to. But it's pretty thick, pretty heavy duty, and it's going to hold up pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and get the magical floating engine into the chassis. Alright, YouTube, we now have the engine mount in place and tack welded together. Just to give you an idea how it's going to set up, I'm going to have 3 bolts up top, and I didn't cover the camera, there we go, and 3 bolts on the bottom. So that'll attach it to the frame. It's going to be all fully welded together. That big old thing there is a 1/8 inch and 3/8 inch plate. The rubber mount. Wow, I'm horrible at this camera work today. With the rubber mount there. And there's the factory engine bracket. So that's about where it's going to sit. Right now it's just above the cross member down there. Down in there it's just barely above. So in that case, I think I'll be good. Let me put a couple washers in there as a spacer, but that's about where it's going to sit. We have radiator clearance. What radiator clearance? There's barely any there. Yeah, exactly. So there's going to be like a fan here and a fan over there in the bottom, but everyone else running it seems to have no issues, so I'm going to do that same theory. I also have the radiator in front of the brackets here, so there'll be a little more space in the back. And if I need room, I can always base it back further with a couple washers or something. That's a little close there. But the final position is going to be slightly more forward. I counted for about a 1/2 inch more forward, which will give us about 1/2 inch less room, but it'll work. As far as the front view goes, I'm really happy. It's about level there. So that intercooler crossover tube ordeal's really the only concern. However, this turbo needs replaced if you saw my startup video. So the turbo is going to be coming out in this direction here to an intercooler pipe, which is probably going to go down in through about in here. Haven't worked all that out yet, but after we get the engine mounted, we will. Come around to the other side, give you a view of what we got over here. Starter access is, well, pretty damn good, I'd say. So I'm happy with that. Got some bolts that are pretty close to the frame there, so when I finally tighten everything down, I'm gonna have to, I'll probably just go in there with the Sawzall. It's at the point where I can lift it up, Sawzall off the ends, and or replace them with smaller bolts. We're gonna figure all that out later. Right now I just want to get it in place. Front mount won't be bad. You can't see down there very well, but you see the metal bracket and then the piece of tube there right in front of the radiator support that's wiggling. It's going to mount off that tube. Put a couple 4x4s in there just to get it sitting where it needs to go. The front end's going to go up maybe another 1/2 inch or so, I think, just to give us a little slope down. So the transmission's going to be back in here, and we'll be good to go. All right, YouTube, we got one side made up here. I have a metal spacer in there right now because that bracket is obnoxiously hot. And it's not something you want to touch or you want your polyurethane to touch, so I just knocked down the chipping hammer. That being said, It's in place. That's about where it's going to sit. I'm going to leave that one with the bolt in it. And all I got to work on the other side now, which is sitting just a little bit low. But I may go ahead and rechain this or something to that extent just to get that sitting where it needs to sit. But yeah, there's your rear mount. Welded it up with 7018 rod. Welds are good enough to hold, I'll tell you that. 7018 I like a lot better than a 6011 and 6013 I've been running, so found that on YouTube and decided to run it. So we're gonna go ahead and get the other ones mounted up, the other one made up, and then get them two mounted up, and then comes the front mount. So it's getting there. A few hours in on this mount without any cutting, actually. Just kind of worked with what I had already cut up and mocked up. So take your time, definitely take your time. Either way, it is going to be one full engine bay. I was hoping to get a lot more room because it's a 6-cylinder, but yeah, that's definitely not happening. Okay, YouTube, we are now resting on the rear mounts. Yeah, look at that. This one's only tacked together on this side, but I thought mock up, well, might as well put the bushings in and see how it actually rests. So we're not perfectly aligned 100% with the angles between them, but you know what, the bushing will take up that slot, plus the front end's moving up a little bit too. However, it's really hard to put that front end up because the way I have it chained. There is like no lift points on these things. Here's the other end. Not quite yet on the mount, but I'm gonna get it down there and get it in and make sure everything's level before I go any further. So just wanted to give you a quick overview of that. Well, here it is. Weight resting on the chassis. It's a very tight squeeze. I have some blocks up underneath the front mount, which I just realized I have to pull off. But the good news is I have all the location I need for everything. Everyone seemed to have a better luck with these little radiator hoses, but I'm gonna have to fab something up because it's gonna come out doing 90, run under the engine. No, but there's something right there, that flat piece underneath the vacuum pump pulley. So I'll have to come up with something for that lower radiator hose. The upper one though, looks like it should be pretty good. Shouldn't be too hard. Turbo sitting in a good location. I have an intake pipe running somewhere in here. Turbo sitting there. Run a filter out to maybe here or over here. Probably just a 90 and a filter here. Right on top of the fender with a little box. I'm liking it. I'm really liking it, YouTube. So there's half of it done. I may have to clock that air compressor. It's sitting a bit high. But, you know, that's not too much of an ordeal. Well, maybe it is. Have to make up a 90-degree bracket for it to rotate it sideways some. Or another bracket to lower it down, or whatever I need to do. But, you know, this is about final resting spot, so I'll have plenty of room in here. With a 1 or 2 inch body lift like I'm planning, that may just barely clear the hood. So, one of these days we're going to find out how well it clears the hood. That air compressor may be the reason for the body lift. Because that intake tube's again going to change. So you might need a further intake tube too. But either way, we got the core support on. We got a radiator clearance. I mean, that is tight. But I can make it happen. Changing belts may wind up being fun. It is going to scoot back maybe half an inch or so, because when you set it down it moves forward, so you know, have to reposition it and slide it back some. Not too big of an ordeal. Well, YouTube, it's in. DT360 and the Ford pickup chassis. Only real issue I'm going to have is, well, coolant filter's touching a bit. So when I do a change out on that, it will be remote mounted. Other than that, everything's got good clearance. Oil filters are excellent clearance. After the turbo's in there, it'll be a little harder to get to. There's just an idea of where the engine mount bracket sits. Bushing hangs out a little bit. I'll put a bigger plate on top of that and weld that in at one point in time. However, right now it's just about getting things mocked up and getting things ready before I paint the body. So I still got to put the tranny on and get that cross member built. After that, I think we'll be good to go as far as rolling it back outside. But right now I got to try to bring it into the garage. So see all the room up front, but the radiator is going to sit right here, as you've seen in the previous videos. So I'll take up some space. Clearance shaft, steering shaft has plenty of clearance. Has some wiring just laying there. That all goes up to the cab, and I'll be routed differently eventually. However, starter's got plenty of room to get out. So 99% happy, like I said. Coolant filter is really the only downside. So once we get that taken care of with a relocation kit of some sort, we'll be good to go. All right, well, there you go. DT360 engine sitting in the chassis with all the mounts done. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.